so much. I think you can hear me back there, I hope. We've got in any place else, this would be an overflow crowd. And I just want to let Dan Onofrio know, because I know this helps support the BRBC, that I'll be asking Brian Luckhart for a list of whoever got free tickets and make sure that he publishes your names in the paper, just for full disclosure. But Bob, thank you for the kind introductions. Dan, as well to you. I know we have the Regional Business Council, the Chamber of Commerce. We have a number of elected officials that have not been introduced. What I'm going to do is just ask them. I know a number of the members of the City Council are here. I don't think our state delegation was able to make it, but I'd ask them to stand. I saw a number of them. Give them a round of applause for their hard work, their constant commitment to the City of Bridgeport as the legislative body, who work closely and tirelessly with the mayor, supporting all the initiatives. Right, Alfredo? I also want to recognize, we also have, I don't know if Mark Loretti stood up, we have the Mayor of Shelton here. Mark, are you here? Where'd he go? Mark is not only a good mayor, but a good friend. I'm here, I know he's here to hear the speech, and I heard him talking to Jimmy about their plans. He wants to try and steal the amphitheater and move it to Shelton, but Mark, we're keeping it right here in Bridgeport. You're welcome to come anytime you want. But welcome and thanks for being here. Lastly, I want to thank my family for being here, my brothers, sisters, sisters-in-laws, nephews, nieces, and especially my parents, if they'll stand, Josephine and George. Again, you got to stand, Mom. Come on. My dad's a few years older. He's in his 90s. My mother is still in her 30s, as you can tell by looking at her. I want to say God bless you and thank you for your continued support of me, all of us, in such a loving way. So each year I look forward to speaking to you about our state of the city. To announce new exciting developments throughout the city, and really to bring you up to speed on how our city government is working in partnership with you to address the needs and the challenges of our city. While doing this, we can sometimes get lost in the minutia, a list of projects happening throughout the city, and almost lose sight of the bigger picture. And what we need to really be asking is, where is Bridgeport heading, and what's our strategic vision to get there? If you think about it, Bridgeport's a very different city than it was 8 years ago when I first became mayor. And I dare say that it's more poised for growth and progress than at any other point in recent history. But this didn't happen by accident, but rather through hard work, dedication, and the implementation of a strategic vision for a better Bridgeport. That's a strategic vision primarily focused on three major areas: growth and development, better quality of life, and fiscal stability. So let's start with the first pillar of our strategic vision for creating a better Bridgeport: growth and development. Bridgeport is slowly shedding its former identity as an industrial powerhouse and has gained a new identity as the arts and entertainment capital of Connecticut. With the vast majority of new development focused on music, entertainment, restaurants, and housing, this transition is intentional and is being supported by both the city and the business community. Look, you don't have to go any further than to look up or around us at this amphitheater and the arena next door. Both venues have attracted an eclectic mix of famous artists from around the world: The Temptations, Andre Bocelli, Darius Rucker, and Boyz II Men here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Just a few weeks ago, for the first time ever, we had shows happening at both venues at the same time, with thousands of people pouring into downtown to see Kevin Hart here at the amphitheater and Fantasia and Joe next door at the arena. Because of the passion that they have for our city, Jimmy Koplik and Howard Safan were able to build on this success here at the amphitheater by creating the Sound on Sound concert series. And this year we'll host close to 30,000 people at Seaside Park and feature Red Hot Chili Peppers, Bridgeport's own John Mayer, and many other amazing artists. And this year's event's going to be even bigger and better than last year, with nearly double the footprint and 3 times the number of food and beverage vendors. Sound Down Sound promised to be, again, a world-class music experience. Jimmy and Howard, thank you for helping me create Bridgeport's new identity as the arts and entertainment capital of Connecticut. Let's have them stand. They're right there behind my parents. Jimmy, you got to stand. Come on, Howard. Give them a round of applause. Of course, the amphitheater and the arena are complemented by several other smaller entertainment venues throughout the city. The Stress Factory Comedy Club, the Downtown Cabaret, the Bijou Theater, the Klein, and the Park City Music Hall, to name a few. We appreciate all these venues, not simply because they enrich the culture and vibrancy of our city, but also because of the economic activity and stability they bring to our other valued businesses. As many of us experienced, you can't get a reservation in a downtown restaurant when there's an event at either the amphitheater or the arena. This would have been crazy a few years ago, and it proves that these venues are contributing greatly to our city's economy and creating a much more restaurant-friendly environment in our downtown. Take, for example, 29 Markle, a new restaurant on Markle Court next to Ralph and Richie's. A couple years ago, this was a restaurant space in an alley that you could barely find on a map. Now, you can't get into the restaurant on many nights without a reservation. How about Queen's Delight on John Street? That space next to Dunkin' Donuts turned over regularly with the business. We're struggling there. You give them a round of applause. If you're here, stand. Lunchtime is packed and the food is out of this world. And I hope he's here. My friend Paul Brown, who success at Grill 2 on Broad Street led him to make significant investment in what is now a nightclub and bar on Fairfield Avenue called In This City. If you've never been there, this new space is classy and a fun place to have a great time. So these 3 restaurants and their owners are living proof of Bridgeport's strengthening economy and what is possible when you bring ingenuity and investment to Bridgeport. I don't know if Paul's here and the others, but I'd like to ask all 3 to stand up, give them all a round of applause for their commitment, for the continued success of their businesses, and their contribution to our business community. So, as Bridgeport builds an identity around arts, entertainment, and culture, the other major aspects of Bridgeport's development is housing. According to the 2020 census, Bridgeport was one of the fastest growing communities in the state. And as the region experiences people moving from New York, Bridgeport is reaping the benefits. Due to significant investment in housing stock throughout the city, since 2015 when I took office, we've seen hundreds of new units become available in downtown, including the loft apartments above the Comedy Club, the HWS building at 1115 Main Street, and most recently the Jason Newfield building in downtown North. These developments have brought thousands of people into our downtown neighborhood, and the trend is going to continue with the new development at Congress Street Plaza. Congress Street Plaza is a $25 million project of almost 100 residential units with ground floor retail and structured parking. What I call the proliferation of housing over the past 8 years is not limited to just downtown. It extends throughout the city. For example, in the South End at the former Marina Village site, we're moving into phase 2 of a 4-story affordable development which includes a Southwest community health care facility. In the Hollow, Park City Communities, formerly Bridgeport Housing Authority, under the leadership of the newer Executive Director Julian Baldwin has started the process of what's called decommissioning the Green Homes apartments. And this will make way for new affordable housing units, which will greatly improve that neighborhood and the surrounding area. By the way, I'd like to point out that Jillian and the board who are here today have done an amazing job to bring the Park City community out of troubled status with the federal government. Give Jillian and her board the recognition she deserves for the services they provide. Where are you, Jillian? Not an easy job, but she's getting it done. Thank you. And on the east side and the west side, respectively, the historic conversion of the former Waltersville and Whittier schools will bring another 100 new units of affordable housing to the city. And in Black Rock, East Point Development and Spinnaker have already started leasing units at Campfield Park. It's a 6-story, $75 million development that will eventually have 300 market rate residential units. I recently toured the facility, and I can tell you that not only are these units extremely desirable, but the development also has amenities and common spaces that are sure to attract even more young people to our city. And finally, at Steel Point, BLD will soon be breaking ground on a $125 million first phase of 400 waterfront housing units with ground floor retail. This exciting new waterfront development will complement the many other positive changes at Bridgeport Harbor, including Boca Restaurant, which I'm sure many of you have been to, a thriving marina, and major companies operating on our harbor. These include Bridgeport Boat Works, a 50,000 square foot marine servicing facility, Hornblower Group, an international manufacturer of ferries and cruise ships with 60 employees. North Sails, they're called the largest sail manufacturer in the world. Now, candidly, I don't know if that means they make the biggest sails in the world or the most sails, but regardless, we're glad to have them here in Bridgeport. In coming years, we'll continue to see new life like this brought to Bridgeport Harbor with the Port Jefferson Ferry Company, which has plans for a new ferry terminal along the harbor in the East End. And the Bridgeport Port Authority, which is halfway through construction of a new high-speed ferry terminal with the eventual goal of having high-speed ferry service between Bridgeport and New York City. And as we continue the progress I've mentioned here of recapturing Bridgeport's waterfront property, we're also serious about addressing the environmental eyesore, which is known as the former PSEG plant right behind us. As you know, it's a site of the last coal-burning plant in the Northeast. The cleanup and redevelopment of this site has become one of my administration's top priority. Now that it's been decommissioned, we've taken the lead with state and federal officials to control this site to ensure that it is environmentally remediated with an eye towards preparing the site for future development. This development will complement everything else that's happening along Bridgeport's waterfront. Now, the second pillar of the strategic vision for a better Bridgeport is called improving the quality of life for our residents. Of course, economic development is essential to improving quality of life in the city. For example, I had the pleasure several weeks ago of standing with other elected officials at the Remington Arms site on the east side to begin the demolition of the blighted buildings located there. While we're demolishing and removing blight, we are keen on preserving the historic shot tower as part of Bridgeport's proud history. These buildings have been an eyesore there for decades and have had the effect of depressing development and growth in that part of the city. Not too far away in the East End, there's another great example of how development can improve the quality of life and is doing that right now for the residents in the East End. Honey Locust Square, as it's called, formerly the Civic Block on Stratford Avenue, is bringing development to the East End, the likes of which haven't been seen there in more than 40 years. The site is already home to the state-of-the-art Newfield Library, which has just been redone. And this site will also feature a grocery store, a health clinic, a police station, police substation, and much more. Earlier this year, when the project faced what we call economic headwinds due to inflation, the city stepped up with almost $1 million investment in the project, and then worked with our legislative delegation to secure another $3.5 million from the state. Since then, the project has seen substantial progress, and as I hear, the grocery store is expected to be completed by the end of the year. The East End has great representation and a great NRZ. I know Keith and others are here. I give them a round of applause for the continued support and perseverance to make sure the East End is all that it can be. In the downtown, of what's called Post Office Square, across from Berlinetta Brewing Company, we've also brought new amenities, including a beer garden, food trucks, bocce courts, and a new skateboard event. All these are helping to make the downtown even more desirable. And finally, another project which is showing incredible progress is the Wakeman's Boys and Girls Club in the lower North End. This $20 million, 44,000 square foot facility includes both Caribe Youth Leagues and a new Southwest Health Clinic, and is on track to open by late summer. Let's give a thanks to all who are making this project a great place for young people. I don't know if Sabrina's here, the Wakeman team and others, stand for a round of applause. Greatly appreciated. Howard, I'm gonna let the train go by. It's like Kevin Hart did, right? Speaking of learning and development projects, it was my pleasure last week to finally break ground on the new Bassick High School in the South End. A $139 million project that will bring the last of our high schools into the 21st century. And because of the new location at the University of Bridgeport campus, our students will not only have their own athletic fields, but they'll be able to experience educational opportunities at a college level. UB's in the house. Where's Mark? Give him a round of applause. They've done a phenomenal job of not only maintaining, but increasing higher education at the University of Bridgeport and partnering with us. Danielle, I see you there smiling, trying to hide. Danielle, will you stand and take a round of applause so Mark doesn't get it all the time? And I want you to know that I am pleased and continue to be pleased to work with the Board of Education and our superintendents here. Did I see our superintendent in the back? Give her a round of applause as well. And our City Council on funding for this and other priority school projects. Not only have the City Council and I remained steadfast in our commitment to increase operational funding for the board by millions of dollars each year, but we also are standing behind our legislators in Hartford who are currently working to dramatically increase Bridgeport public school funding for years to come. And for the first time, we're looking to invest in the post-secondary education of our Bridgeport students by creating a merit college scholarship program called Bridgeport Promise. Is Reverend McCullough here? Reverend McCullough, who planted this in our ear years ago. Thank you, Faith Acts, for your support for a Bridgeport Promise program. It is arriving this year. The council funded it, and we'll make sure that it provides opportunity for Bridgeport High School students to be able to afford to go on to college. While our city continues to make substantial investments in education, I'm also mindful of our needs of our community around public safety. This last December, I had the pleasure of choosing a new police chief to lead the Bridgeport Police Department. Chief Roderick Porter's leadership on the department has been called exemplary. He's begun to implement meaningful reforms in the department that are putting more cops on the street and making more police visible in our community. And as departments across the country are faced with recruitment and manpower shortages, we're working hard on the recruitment of 2 new police classes to fill our ranks. It's important that we give the chief the manpower he needs to get the job done. Chief Porter's leadership is a great compliment to our fire chief, Lance Edwards, who has not only shown his great leadership in the department, but has also worked hard to increase the diversity within the department, particularly as he recruits new fire cadets this year. I'd like to ask both our chiefs, I know they're both here in uniform, to stand and be recognized for their great work in strengthening the public safety of our city. Improving quality of life in our neighborhoods is, of course, not just a matter of public safety. And that's why we've engaged in several major initiatives aimed at making our neighborhoods more desirable. For example, the last year we commissioned several large mural projects where I think you'd agree help beautify the city and recognize the important role that arts and culture play in the vibrance of our city. We announced this year, after decades, a bulk trash pickup program we brought back to benefit our residents and to combat blight and illegal dumping. Our program continues to be a massive success, with over 1,200 appointments completed and about another 800 more scheduled in the coming weeks. I know our Public Works Department has done a phenomenal job of taking this on with minimizing the cost to residents of the city. I want to give them a shout out too. I know Craig's here, and they're getting the job done. On top of that, I'm happy to announce that in June this year, we're going to launch a $10 million street paving program that will result in the resurfacing of over 200 streets throughout every neighborhood in the city. I know city council members are going to clap for that one. By the way, this is more than 3 times any street paving program in Bridgeport's history. And I don't want to go to the next topic without mentioning one of the greatest accomplishments I feel that we've been able to participate in as administration in terms of improving the quality of life has been the execution of the American Rescue Plan to address the economic effects of the pandemic. Immediately after receiving the funding, we acted faster than any other city in the state to put the money to work. We deployed millions of dollars in relief to small businesses who were devastated by the pandemic. We invested in small business storefront improvements that have made our businesses more desirable and our neighborhoods more beautiful. We also deployed tens of millions of dollars to nonprofit agencies that are on the front lines addressing some of the most critical needs of our residents, including housing insecurity and homelessness, workforce needs, second chance opportunities, educational and after-school programs, and more. Overall, because of the vast investment in our small businesses and nonprofits, I believe we're making a difference in the lives of so many in our city. As a result, is a better place for it. Lastly, we know, and I all know all too well, because when I started this job, I took over a city that was literally bankrupt, that improving the quality of life in our city is, of course, extremely important, but such investments are not possible unless we maintain and keep our fiscal house in order. So that brings me to our third pillar, the third pillar of our strategic vision for a better Bridgeport, which is fiscal stability. And I'm proud to say, with the support of the City Council, we've delivered 8 straight balanced budgets, and most importantly, have been able to maintain fiscal stability while again holding the line on taxes in Bridgeport. Holding the line of tax is always worth a round of applause, according to my dad. Right, Dad? Because of our commitment to balanced budgets, we've ended each year in the black. And we've contributed, on top of that, significantly to the city's once very much depleted rainy day fund. The rating agencies generally expect an A-rated municipality like Bridgeport to have a rainy day fund or savings of approximately 8 to 10% of a total budget. When I took office, the city's rainy day fund was less than 3%. Since then, we've increased it to $40 million, almost 7% of our annual budget. And as a result, last year, noting our dedication to fiscal responsibility, the city of Bridgeport received its first bond rating increases from both Fitch and Moody's in over a decade. And this, of course, is going to save the city millions of dollars in interest payments as it goes to the markets for important capital needs. In conclusion, I want to say that it continues to be my honor and pleasure to serve as mayor of Connecticut's largest city, and to continue to work with you on this strategic vision to ensure that Bridgeport is the best and most viable city that it can be. And while there's so much more left to do, I am proud to report today that the state of our city is strong, that Bridgeport continues to experience a resurgency, and that Bridgeport's best days are yet to come, brick by brick, neighborhood by neighborhood, day in and day out. We are making progress in Bridgeport together. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present my 17th State of the City address. I'm looking at Dan because nobody tells him what to do next, Dan. You're going to come up? Thank you very much. Thank you.